Good morning, friends. Excuse me. Good morning, friends. It is Tuesday morning, and surprise, surprise, I am live. This is not Memorex. Yesterday got away from me, and I didn't have the opportunity to make a video, so I just kind of cut my meeting. It's one of the advantages of leading a meeting. You get to decide when it ends. So got my meeting to wrap up about 20 to 9, was able to get on here for this. So wonderful. It's good to be with you this morning. I'm PB. I'm Pastor Brian, pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church in Waynesboro. And this is episode 14 of PB Reads the Bible, 1 Samuel. Okay, episodes 14 on our journey through 1 Samuel. So go ahead and check in. Let me know you're there. Because all Facebook does is give me a number. You can also send me a text. If you got questions or comments about what we discussed today, you can put those in the comment section or send me a text on that. And if there's something you want me and others in our small group as we share life together to keep in prayer, go ahead and put those in, do the same thing, put them in the comment section or send me a text. And that phone number is 570-351-1619. Awesome. It is Tuesday. Yeah. And so this week, tomorrow will definitely be a video. So when you see me wearing this shirt tomorrow, I'm not wearing it 2 days in a row. It just means I'm doing the video today. Because tomorrow's meeting is at 9 o'clock. So I can't be in two places at the exact same time, not even through Zoom. And our question for this week is, am I self-conscious, self-pitying, or self-justifying? Am I self-conscious, self-pitying, or self-justifying? And a scripture to consider as you ponder that is Philippians 2, 3 and 4. Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Okay, there we go. Oh, hello, Cheryl. Excuse me. One more sip of water should take care of that issue. At least I hope it will. All right. So we're just going to kind of jump right in here on this chapter. This is episode 14, so we're looking at chapter 15. Right? We are on episode 14, so we're going to be reading through chapter 15 today. Good morning, Marilyn. And we're looking at Saul again. Still looking at Saul, perhaps. And although he appears again after this is, I shouldn't say this is his last big appearance, because he's got other big appearances, but we are slowly going to see the main focus of the book of Samuel, shift from Saul to David, beginning with the next chapter. It's going to be hinted at today's reading, but it really comes about beginning with tomorrow. Tomorrow's one of the big ones. All right. But we're going to jump right in here. We're going to find out some things about Saul. We're going to learn a little bit more about him, and we are going to see why. I guess we're going to see why he is rejected by God, and why he's rejected by Samuel as well. Why God regrets having made Saul king. Good morning, John and Cindy. Good to have you folks with us as well this morning. Okay. So there's a few things for you to look out for. We're going to see words about listen and hear, which also has the connotation of more than just hearing. It's hearing and doing. Okay, it's obeying. Many times when we read the word hear, reread it, putting in obey. Okay, because that's what a lot of this has to do with. Uh, we're gonna, part of the story is going to be very hard to read. We might say it doesn't sound right, and we're going to want to try to put our own understanding on things. For instance, it's going to start off with Samuel telling Saul, God wants you to go kill all the Amalekites. And we could have a discussion about whether or not God actually would say something like that. But that's going to change the meaning of the story if we do. Because the story isn't about whether or not God actually said it, and it's not whether or not God actually wanted that to happen. It all has to deal with obedience versus disobedience. Okay, so put that question as far as, wow, did God really say that? I would say no, but take that question out of your mind. Don't try to reshape the story. Okay, when we do that, we're going to be probably kinder to Saul than the story wants us to be. All right, so let's just get that one out of it. Let's accept it as it is as we read this story. Okay, let's just let me put it this way. Let's accept the fact that the characters in the story believed that God was telling them to do this. Okay, let's put it that way. Let's go that way and judge it just based on that, and whether or not they actually obeyed what they truly believed God said. I think that works. All right, so let's get into it. Samuel said to Saul, Yahweh sent me to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now, therefore, listen, obey the words of Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I will punish the Amalekites for what they did in opposing the Israelites when they came up out of Egypt. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. Pause. This is most definitely and very distinctively holy war language taking place in here. In particularly the utterly destroy. It's haram. Haram? Yeah, it's like, I think it's haram, which literally means devoted to. Okay, so you're destroying it because you're devoting it to God. So this is holy war language and holy war actions that should be taken, that they're discussing and talking about. Continuing, verse 4. But so Samuel, now God obviously didn't say this directly to Saul because Samuel is the prophet. Samuel is the voice of God. Samuel mediates God's voice to the people. And Samuel does remind Saul of who he is. I'm the one that anointed you to be king over God's people, to be king over the people of Israel. So you got to listen to what I'm saying and listen to what God is saying through me. All right. So verse 4. So Saul summoned the people and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 soldiers of Judah. Probably not. Remember, we don't know what that word means. It could actually mean units or battalions or troops rather than literally thousands of people. Okay. Saul came to the city of the Amalekites and lay in wait in the valley, which is odd. Pause. The Amalekites were actually a very nomadic group of people. So the story saying that they have a city seems strange. Again, it's not history. It's to tell a point. Saul said to the Kenites, go, leave, withdraw from among the Amalekites, or I will destroy you with them. For you showed kindness to all the people of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites withdrew from the Amalekites. Pause. We hear here an echo back to the Exodus, and that's what this whole thing is about, because as the Israelites were escaping Egypt and wandering in the desert and progressing along, the Amalekites had attacked them at Rephidim and won this battle, killing a whole bunch of them. So that's the background towards why they, and over the years there have been battles, or at least we presume there were, and the battles will continue under David with the Amalekites. But the Kenites were a good group. They showed kindness to the Israelites. So Saul is offering them the opportunity to leave. David does the same thing. We're going to see at some point. Out there. Okay. Saul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt. He took King Agag of the Amalekites alive, but utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep and of the cattle and of the fatlings and the lambs, and all that was valuable, and would not utterly destroy them. All that was despised and worthless, they utterly destroyed. Pause. So we might think, well, they got rid of most of it. He killed most of the people except for one. But of course, this leaves questions. Why only keep the one? Why keep this King Agag? Some people say that, some scholars would say that Saul kept this king alive so that he could work out a truce with him and an exchange of and take over territory and stuff like that by having him alive, and perhaps even make agreements with other Amalekite groups, Amalekite tribes, because of him, but like by keeping him alive. But notice the language: Saul and the people did it. It wasn't just Saul, it was Saul and the people. And it was Saul and the people who kept the sheep and the cattle and all of the good stuff, all of the valuable stuff. They didn't want to destroy, which didn't only mean kill, but it meant kill and burn people and animals and completely burn up all of the good stuff, all of the stuff. They only gave the worthless stuff. So, and the idea, because the Holy War language, this haram, would be that you're giving it to God as a gift. You're making it like sacred to an extent in that fashion, and they're only giving God the leftovers, we might say. They're not giving God the best of the booty. Continuing, the word of Yahweh came to Samuel. I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned back from following me and has not carried out my commands. Samuel was angry, and he cried out to Yahweh all night. Pause. Could be two different things, and it depends on who you listen to, right? If you want to be nice to Samuel or not, I guess. But what was he crying out to God for all night? Out of compassion for Saul, or because he was so upset with Saul himself that he couldn't sleep and was just crying out to God all night about the whole thing, right? Samuel rose early in the morning to meet Saul, and Samuel was told Saul went to Carmel, where he set up a monument for himself. And on returning, he passed down to Gilgal. Pause. So he's on his way to Gilgal. Now, Gilgal is where previously Samuel had declared him to be king, and also where they had this prior one where Saul went and killed and sacrificed the animals because he no longer wanted to wait for Samuel to show up. So it keeps going back to the same place. It's a special spot. But he also went to Carmel and built a monument to himself. So we're seeing some self-aggrandizing going on here, right? We're seeing some self-aggrandizing versus in the last chapter how Jonathan and the people that supported Jonathan kept coming back to everything that's happening is because of God. It's through God. It's through God. It's through God. But now Saul seems to be growing a very large ego, and can't really see what other monument, what other purpose he would have for building a monument to himself. Continuing, verse 13. When Samuel came to Saul, Saul said to him, "May you be blessed by Yahweh. I have carried out the command of Yahweh." Pause. So Saul goes right up to Samuel. "Hey, good to see you, my friend. May you be blessed by God. I've done everything that God asked me to do." "Oh, really?" But Samuel said, "What then is this bleating of sheep in my ears and the lowing of cattle that I hear?" Pause. The author's using a little bit of irony, perhaps, wordplay, because that "here" is the same word that was being used earlier. And I'm hearing the things that you were supposed to, hear, do, and you didn't. Continuing, Saul said, "They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we have utterly destroyed." Pause. Got to pause here, right here, because this language is so interesting, so telling too. Notice Saul's use of pronoun trouble. Notice Saul's use of pronouns. They. He throws the people under the bus. He says that the people, they brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to sacrifice to Yahweh your God. Interesting, not my God, your God. But the rest we have utterly destroyed. So all the stuff that they saved, all the stuff that they didn't kill and didn't burn up, was the people's fault. They did it. They brought that back. But everything that was destroyed was done by us. We utterly destroyed them. Saul is very willing to pass blame to others, but claim credit for himself, all in the same breath. Then Samuel said to Saul, "Stop. I will tell you what Yahweh said to me last night." He replied, "Speak." Samuel said, "Though you are little in your own eyes, are you not the head of the tribes of Israel? Yahweh anointed you king over Israel. And Yahweh sent you on a mission and said, 'Go, utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed.' Why then did you not obey the voice of Yahweh? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do what was evil in the sight of Yahweh?" Saul said to Samuel, "I have obeyed the voice of Yahweh. I have gone on the mission on which Yahweh sent me. I have brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But from the spoil, the people took sheep and cattle, the best of the things devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to Yahweh your God in Gilgal." Pause. There he does it again, right? And he adds in this part about the offering the sacrifice. The narrator didn't say that during the story when they first took the spoils. So it almost seems like Saul's making this up as he goes along, just trying to save himself from whatever's coming, saying, but again, pointing it out to the people. But they did it because we want to make an offering to God. Sounds good. Excuse me. And Samuel said, so continuing verse 22, and Samuel said, has Yahweh as great delight in, I'm gonna have to read it without the Yahweh. Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as in obedience to the voice of Yahweh? Surely to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is no less a sin than divination, and stubbornness is like iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Yahweh, he has also rejected you from being king. Boom. So Samuel is equating Saul's disobedience to idolatry and divination. It's just as bad. It's just as bad. Continuing, 24. Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of Yahweh and your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. There's that word voice, and hearing and obeying. Listen to the wrong one. Now, therefore, I pray, pardon my sin and return with me so that I may worship Yahweh. Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of Yahweh, and Yahweh has rejected you from being king over Israel. As Samuel turned to go away, Saul caught hold of the hem of his robe, and it tore. And Samuel said to him, Yahweh has torn the kingdom of Israel from you this very day, and has given it to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. A precursor, a premonition, so to speak, a foretelling of David, that God has already chosen David. Moreover, the glory of Israel will not recant or change his mind, for he is not a mortal that he should change his mind. Pause. The language here in the Hebrew is very, very difficult and tricky, and we really aren't 100% sure what it's talking about when it says the glory of Israel will not recant or change his mind. It seems to be connected to God's choice of David, and only with regarding God's choice of David. Not that God doesn't change his mind or can't be pled with to change his mind for other things. Otherwise, why pray? But specifically with regards to David, and this word and regarding God connected to this word only appears a couple times in Scripture, and always with regards to David and his covenant relationship and promise to David. So that seems to be what the author here is indicating as well. So picking up from there, verse 30. Then Saul said, I have sinned, yet honor me now before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me, so that I may worship Yahweh your God. Pause. He only wants to save face before the people at this point. He's given up on getting forgiveness from God, apparently. Just, please, let me at least look good before the people. Come with me, and still again, that I may worship Yahweh your God, your God. So Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul worshipped Yahweh. Then Samuel said, bring Agag, the king of the Amalekites, here to me. And Agag came to him haltingly. Haltingly. Agag said, surely this is the bitterness of death, predicting his own death, knowing what's going to happen. But Samuel said, as your sword has made women childless, so your mother shall be childless among women. And Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before Yahweh in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death. But Samuel grieved over Saul, and Yahweh was sorry that he had made Saul king over Israel. End of chapter 15. And this is very telling. It gives a lot of foretelling. It is foretelling of what is going to be taking place. It says this is the last time that Saul sees Samuel until the day of his death, until the day of Samuel's death. And that is the case, because from now on, Saul drifts to the side, David kind of steps forward, and Samuel's going to be dying soon. All right, my friends, I do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you have learned something or relearned something through what I've said, that God has spoken to you through what we have said this morning. As you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears, both physical and spiritual, open to everything that God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you, because we do serve a living, loving, active God. And when you see it happen, when you hear it happen, say thank you, and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, until we meet again, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.